guess what? We're back. And we wish you a happy new year from the Flex family.
This week on the Flex, we will be having caring teachers.
The word of the week is adulting.
I'm adulting. Don't make fun of my adulting. That's insulting. Spell it.
ADULTING. It is a noun that means the practice of behaving like a responsible adult, especially the accomplishment of mundane but necessary tasks.
And maybe some other adulting Flex family will pass through.
Hi, how are you? You can join us this Wednesday from 4 to 5 p.m. right here on Radio Cayman, 89.9 FM. YouthFlex, a program for all people by young people. YouthFlex, more than talk.
When I look at where I'm coming from, I know I'm blessed, and I close my eyes and smile. Sometimes I feel.
All I want to say is that they don't really care about us. Don't worry when people say, we know the truth, we know the truth, we know the truth.
Well, I think everyone should care.
When you are hiring, what are you looking for?
Well, most people hire based on attitude.
And they train for aptitude.
It's season 50.
Because most people don't care what you know until they know that you care. And you can't teach caring.
Sir, can we come up with another name for the season?
Stick to the plan. Stand proud. Voices that care are crying out loud.
Welcome to YouthFlex Season of Caring with our host, DJ Edwards.
We up, yeah. Free up, yeah. Violence, yeah. Got family structure. Who them caboose get lit up, yeah. Hey.
DJ Edwards.
And welcome back to our YouthFlex show. We are in our season of caring. I'm your host, Deidre, along with my co-host, Jessie. For today's show, we'll be having caring teachers, along with Erica Asai.
The word of the week is adulting. ADULTING. It is a noun meaning the practice of behaving like a responsible adult, especially the accomplishment of mundane but necessary tasks.
The quote of the day is, God can't give us peace and happiness apart from himself because there is no such thing, by C.S. Lewis.
You can join in on our conversation by calling 1-800-534-8255, toll-free courtesy of Flow, or join us on YouTube Live. So today currently in the studio, we have two caring teachers. Can you please introduce yourself?
Good evening. I am Patrice Hansen.
Good evening. I am Corinne Patterson.
Nice to have you in the studio today, Miss Hansen and Miss Patterson.
Thank you.
Could you also state which school you're coming from?
We're both from John Gray High School.
Okay. So why did you guys decide to become teachers?
Okay, I'll start. For me, when I was a student in high school, there were teachers who gave me parts of themselves that I wanted to give to my students. And then there were teachers who did not give that. And so there were teachers who I figured I needed to do this for my students. And these are the teachers I wanted to be like. I thought I had an impact to make, and I decided being a teacher would be just that profession to do so.
That's great. What about you, Miss Patterson?
Was pretty much the same thing. For me, it was in high school as well, where we had teachers who, yes, like Miss Sanson said, those who you wanted to emulate and those that you wish you could see another side to them. And so I've always wanted to be able to give back in that way, recognizing that, their students will always need this extra push, this additional love outside of the textbooks.
I really like that.
So teaching is what you've always wanted to do then?
I can't say that was true for me. I, at one point, wanted to be a nurse, but then I realized I was afraid of blood. So that wasn't what I chose to do in the end. I decided I wanted to be a teacher.
Okay.
From Peter Early.
Okay, for me, I wanted to become a teacher, but I did not want to be an English teacher. I didn't want to be a teacher of English at all. I wanted to be a history teacher.
So why did you move from history to English?
It was by default, actually. When I applied for college and I was called in for the interview, they said to me, based on your qualifications, I think you'd make a better teacher of English. So being young, because I was just 18 at the time, I said, all right, let me just go with that. And I have not regretted that. I have not regretted that at all.
That's good.
So during your years of learning, what was the most useful thing that you've learned in teaching?
Well, for me, is that no student is the same.
Agreed.
No student is the same, and the student that you have tomorrow, that you have today, is not the same student that you might have tomorrow. You understand? So I've learned not to stereotype.
And for me, I think one of the most useful things I learned was that teaching can be lonesome. You feel like you're on your own, but I've learned that collaboration is important, that you don't have to suffer in silence. There are other teachers who are more experienced, who have things to impart to you. So you can always share. Like Mrs. Patterson here is my teacher neighbor. And so she has a wealth of resources that I can always tap into. And there are teachers on staff who have that wealth of experience too, who can impart to us as teachers.
And I'd like to ask, like, how many years have you been teaching, and where was your first school that you taught at? Or which school?
I have been teaching for 19 years.
Wow.
I did 1 year in Arden in Jamaica, and then I came here, started at John Gray, then transferred to Grace Christian Academy in West Bay, and then George Hicks, and then back at John Gray.
Wow.
And for me, this has been my 25th year teaching, and my first teaching job, of course, was in Jamaica at a school in Portmore, Bridgeport High School. I went to 2 other schools after that. Then I went into, still teaching, but I went into a program in Jamaica stimulating young minds to become achiever under the Addiction Alert Rise Life Management banner, which was a program aimed at at-risk youths. So we did a lot of developmental programs along with the academics, interventions within the communities and with the parents as well.
Okay.
And then John Gray, and I've been there since.
Okay. Have you guys have any pitfalls that you've had to overcome while learning to be a teacher or teaching?
For me, I have learned not to be so reserved. I've always told my friend here, Mrs. Sansa, that I'm shy and reserved. She will tell you no. But, and, you know, teaching, you have to present to the student this positive, assertive personality. And so that's one of the things that I've had to overcome, to put my, you know, my shyness aside. And, you know.
Okay, so overcoming myself, that has been my major pitfall. I tend to be more self-reliant. I tend to find answers within myself. I tend to deal with things within me. And that's part of the question I answered earlier, that I'm learning how to collaborate more, to seek assistance, to give assistance instead of relying only on myself.
Yeah, I love that, because even as students, you know, sometimes we feel like the work is overwhelming, but instead of asking for help, we just try to do it ourselves, when really we should just reach out to someone.
Exactly.
What's the best advice you have been giving about teaching?
The best advice I've been given about teaching is not to take today's situations, issues, into tomorrow. So, for example, you might have had a bad day with a student, a class. Don't take it into tomorrow. Start on a clean page every day.
I agree.
You understand? So, yes. So that's been.
And also to be present, to live in the moment, to be flexible, Students come, they're people, genuine, they're people, and they have parts of them that they really want to reserve, parts of them that they want to share. And to just be present means to show up and give your best every day, to flip that lesson if it doesn't warrant or this, you know that it's not the best time for this particular lesson. Just be present.
Do you see any differences in the students back then, like the students that were in your class versus the students now that you teach?
Yes. Go ahead, Chris.
As a student, as a teacher in Jamaica versus here, because most of my experience
is in Jamaica.
Okay. The truth is, students are students. And I'm not I'm not convinced that their physical location really is a difference. They have the same issues. They have most of the same mannerisms, the same concerns, the same needs. So while they might communicate it differently back then, it's the same. The students now, they're more exposed, they have more technology at their fingertips, different generation. So of course, that's where the difference lies. But outside of that, no, not really. The needs are the same. As Mrs. Hanson says, there's always a student who needs something, who needs to share, who needs attention. And it's the same the world over. So, no, not really.
Okay.
And what do you enjoy most about your career?
I enjoy the emotional aspect of my children. I find that when students know that you care for them outside of just the academics or seeing them being successful, but caring for them as a person, that gives you more from them. I've had students who, the moment they know that this is not just a job, but this is something that you're passionate about, that you have their well-being at heart, you get so much more out of them. So that's what I enjoy most about them.
And for me, same thing, the relationships. The relationships don't end at the end of high school or whatever grade. You understand? So we have students who have left years before and they still maintain that relationship. Students that you no longer teach and they still maintain that relationship. So because they say teaching is not a 9-to-5 job. And just like we invest in our family relationships, it's the same thing with our students. It becomes a family. And then you don't just cut off family ties when a family member relocates, you know? So yes, the relationships, that's
Has your career ever come to the point where you want to give up but have chosen to go on? If so, why?
I've been there. I think part of the thing that kept me going or has been keeping me is students coming back to say, Miss, you have made a difference or you have made an impact. And sometimes it's from students that you're not expecting it from. It's sometimes a letter, a note to say thank you. Or you see them in the supermarket and they say, you remember when? And sometimes, honestly, you don't remember when. But there is something that stood out for them. I remember a quote, I'm not sure if it's Maya Angelou, who stated that people will remember what you do and what you say, but they will never forget. People will forget what you do and what you say, but they will never forget how you make them feel.
That's right.
And that is sometimes what keeps me going, the fact that these students come back day after day, and even they're in your classes up to today, and they say, thank you, Miss, you have made a difference. That has kept me going.
Same here. The as you mentioned, the coming back, the meeting up. You know, just recently, over the Christmas break, a past student and his mom saw me in the supermarket. No, I can hardly recognize anybody under the mask. But they recognized me, and, you know, she said, oh, he came to school looking for you. I never saw you. He wants to tell you thanks. This is somebody who left 2 years ago. You know, and over time. So, yes, there have been times when you feel like giving up. like breaking, but then you remember. And then there's always the thing, the teacher's adage, oh, I need to finish with this set. And you never finish with a set because there's always another set coming, you know. And so you always say, all right, I need to take this set up to exam levels and then I'm going to leave. But then you start with another set and then, because it's relationships, it keeps, you know, recurring.
I'd also like to add on, my mom actually used to be a teacher, and even up to this day, we can go to the supermarket and one of her students will come up to her, and it's honestly one of the most wonderful things to see.
It is.
Indeed, indeed.
Speaking of the mask, how has your job changed since the pandemic?
How's the online teaching going?
Well, the mask. The mask has really been a challenge because our students are not wearing them properly sometimes. You have to keep reminding them, put your mask on, wear your mask properly. So, and, you know, it has become a kind of a fearful space because you don't want to be thinking that you might transmit something to your students or they might pass on something to you for you to take home. And because teaching is a relationship career, it's kind of hard. You can't touch a student like you'd want to. You're doing well.
Or console them.
Right, you're concerned about even touching the books sometimes. So it has changed a lot of things. A lot of the dynamics have changed.
That too, as well as the fact that you normally could read a child's expression, you know, when you've lost a child in class. With online learning, you are unable to do that. Sometimes they're not putting on their cameras. Sometimes they're not even there. And so you're not getting the response you want. So online learning was a little difficult for me.
Yes, it was. And I need to add to that too, the fact that within the physical classroom space, you're in control. Now, online, yes, a student, they're talking and they realize that, oh, I'm talking to myself, the student is gone.
Yeah, they're probably eating breakfast or something.
Or gone back to bed.
Yes, last night, actually, I had a class, and at my school now, you have to be in school unless you're doing a 200 level course, because they did a study, you know, where we need to be in face-to-face, it helps better. So last night there was like 4 people on our online because it's a YOUTHFLEX class, and 3 of them had COVID, I think, or like they were sick something, and then one of them were at work. And you know, the teacher was saying, you know, how it really makes a difference rather than being online than face to face, because you know, we're all there paying attention, and she can really help us more rather than being online. So,
yeah.
Do you have any advice for people who want to become teachers?
Sure. Go for it. If you're into nation building, if you're into empowerment, if you really want to make a difference, go for it. It is as fulfilling as anything else that you can imagine out there.
Teachers do make a huge difference because that's who your child is with for most of the day.
Exactly.
And I would say it is a great profession, but it is demanding. I've heard people say it's a calling. I'm not sure if I'm going to put it all the way there, but if you don't feel passionate about it, it's something that you will leave within a month or so because it is demanding. And you have to have your heart in the place where you really want to make a difference in order to stick to it. We're dealing with real people. So if you're not into respecting children, then it's not the profession for you.
Yeah, I get
and
that.
Also to add to that, if you're into a 9 to 5 where you go by the clock, that's not going to be the profession for you. Because Miss Hanson can agree with me that we get most of our work done after the students are gone. You understand? So if you're looking for a 9 to 5 job, teaching is not the one for you.
And also that it is not a microwave. It's not something that you'll get instantly. The gratification, sometimes the seeds you plant won't blossom in front of you. It might be years down the road when they germinate and you realize that, hey, you made a difference. So if you're into the instant gratification, teaching is definitely not for you.
I think that's great advice, actually. So we are in our season of caring. Who or what do you care about?
Everything and everyone. My family, definitely. If I can just say, my husband, who I believe is an extraordinary teacher, who I go to for pretty much everything. So I care about my family, I care about my colleagues, care about my profession and my students, care about the environment. Yeah.
And same here. Same here. I mean, my family, that always comes first, right? I have an awesome husband. He's not a teacher, but very supportive. He's the kind of person who understands that I can't come to bed at 8 o'clock or 9 or 10 sometimes or 1. You understand? Yes, that is that we talk about the demands of the job. Of course, and I, as Mrs. Santos say, people. You understand? I care about nation building, about empowering people, and teaching has offered me that kind of, leeway.
Yeah.
I love that.
So do you have any final comments or shout outs to anyone?
Definitely. Shout out to my husband, Ian Patterson, and my daughter, Hannah. They make my world shine. Of course, my colleagues at John Gray, awesome family. Indeed. And the English department. Mrs. Hanson mentioned, yes, Mrs. Hanson mentioned our husband. He's our lead, and he's awesome. Shout out Mr. Hanson. He's my go-to guy. Yeah, he's my go-to guy. So, she's on my right. Her classroom is on my right, and his is on my left. So I have support on both sides. So shout out to the Hansons and Jaden and Jelani. Those are my sons. Yes, she can tell you. I'm their other mother. Of course.
You have any final comments, Miss Hanson?
Shout out to my students. Well, in addition to my husband and the English department and my colleagues at John Gray and our principal, who is doing such a sterling job.
Yes.
I want to say big up to my students who may be listening. I love you dearly, and even though I'm hard on you, sometimes it's for your best, and you'll come to appreciate it soon.
Thank you so much for coming on the show today. Continue to be caring teachers.
Thank you, Deirdre.
Thank you, Deirdre. Thank you for having us.
And before we have one more caring teacher, we're going to have a quick music break.
Our first song will be Growing Pains by Alicia Cara.
And we're back. So we now have another caring teacher in the studio. Can you please introduce yourself and what school you are coming from?
Sure. Good evening. My name is Diane Verona, and I'm from the Lighthouse School.
So we'd like to begin by asking you, why did you become a teacher?
To be frankly honest, this was not my first choice of profession. I always wanted to help children. I always knew that I wanted to help children, but I wanted to be a pediatrician. Mm-hmm. And it was only after one of my favorite teachers in junior high school asked me to tutor a student in English that I even considered teaching.
Oh, okay.
And I guess it became a passion of mine, and she told me I would make an excellent teacher, so that sort of boosted my confidence to go into this profession.
Mm-hmm. So at that point, where were you, like, in your studies?
I was in my last year of junior high school, entering my first year of senior high school. Mm-hmm. And I was raised in New York, so it was in New York. And it was, I guess you would call it back then, an urban, underprivileged child. Mm-hmm. Came from a really rough background. And school was not on that child's agenda at all.
Mm-hmm. So how did you get into, or what school did you go for teaching is what I'm trying to ask.
Well, I actually started studying at Barry University. Mm-hmm. And I was taking actually pre-law, and I minored in education. Oh. And it was only after helping out a family member that had, the child had special needs, that I went into special needs. Mm-hmm. And so that's what I've been doing now for the last 44 plus years.
Mm-hmm. Wow, that's amazing.
What was the most useful thing you've learned in teaching?
Well, the most useful thing that I learned is to be prepared. You should always be prepared. And as the previous teachers and educators just said, that you should not judge a child from their background or their situation, that you should always treat the child with respect and be caring. I think that's one of the first things as an educator. You should always be caring and look for the good in a person. Mm-hmm. I think that's one of the best things that you could do.
And you also said that you focused on special needs.
Yes.
And you're at the Lighthouse School. Mm-hmm. So would you say that you're more emotionally connected to your students? And how does that take on to you?
It does take a toll, I must admit. It does take a toll, but you are connected with them, because when you see a child that could not lift a fork or a spoon to do that small task, it just brings a feeling of completion to you. It's like you have given birth to that child, mm-hmm. and you have rejoiced with their smallest accomplishments. And I said it's an emotional journey. It's a sense of pride also that mm-hmm. you have done your best to help this child along the journey in their life.
Yeah. And I also feel like every one of us are caught up in our day-to-day lives, and we don't really slow down and take the time to be in the present and to be thankful for the little things that we have.
Yeah, because we don't know how others have it.
That's true. But I also think that teaching is not a job. Mm-hmm. I heard the colleague said before that it's not a calling, but I actually do think it's a calling. I think you have to have passion in it. Mm-hmm. You have to have passion in anything that you do. If you don't have a passion, then you might as well give up and move on to something else.
Yeah, I think it's also a way of life,
It is.
Because you're dedicating your life to helping children.
That's true.
Have you had any pitfalls that you've had to overcome while learning to become a teacher or teaching?
I don't know if I would call it a pitfall, but I would definitely call it a shift of priorities. And I think that would be with the parents' attitudes towards respect and accountability for their children's actions. And I will say some parents. I'm not going to lump all parents in the same boat. and I think it does trickle down then to their child's attitude, because I remember when I was a young teacher, teachers were respected and just like ministers and pastors, you were a esteemed member of the community. And some teachers were put on pedestals. Not that I ever wanted to be like that at all. But, I mean, we were considered, respectful members of the community. And over the years, some of the parents just, their lack of interest, lack of accountability, and they only sometimes make their children come to school because it's mandated by the government. And because of that difference, I think that's one of the biggest shifts of priority, that, it's not a respect, that teachers are not revered, they're not respected, yes. But I also have to lay blame on my colleagues also, because in order to have respect, you have to give respect.
True.
And if you don't respect the students or the children that you're teaching, then you're not going to get respect back. And I've learned that over my years of teaching. It goes with anybody. And we have to acknowledge that students and children are humans.
Yeah.
Okay? They're just like us.
I also feel like... Give me a second. Thought just went for me. It was on the tip of my tongue.
Now you know.
Oh my gosh. Okay, you go. I'm thinking.
So how do you approach your everyday as the children that you teach are always changing?
I got it back.
Okay. Well, my everyday life as a teacher, I would have to say, pray. A song, be prepared. You have to be prepared, have your lessons, have humor, and just go with the flow. Not every child is alike. Not every scenario is alike. Not every situation is alike. I think that things happen, and you just have to just go with it. If you're a compulsive planner, and if you have, and you cross all your T's and dot your I's, things still happen. So you have to be prepared. The internet's not working, open up those books. Okay? Smartboard is frozen, use the whiteboards. Well, computer crashes, have a backup plan. PE class cancel, turn on a music video and dance. Show them your dance moves. Because, we have to be prepared, but it's also challenging. So, so you're going to have the children that are whiners. You have the children that are challenging ones. You have the ones that are the smart Alex, the ones that think they know it all. So, there are different learning styles, but you have to adjust and be flexible. You have to let the children know that, you're the captain of this here spaceship, and that they're just in your universe. But if we can all work together and, and navigate this place together. So I think a lot of it is being adjustable and flexible and compassion.
My comment that I wanted to add on what you said before that question was that I feel like most people feel like teaching is the easiest job in the world that they can do. And we know that it's not, because, it's a way of living, and not everyone, I feel, has what it takes. It really takes a special person to become a teacher and to have that passion for it.
That's true.
What do you enjoy most about your career?
In the olden days, I would have said breaks, vacation, holidays, days off, but not now. So I think the best thing that I enjoy is to see the light go on in a student's eye when they've caught on to a subject that they had difficulty in. Getting hugs from the younger children, getting high fives from the middle-aged children, busting a move with the high school, and being down with the slang and saying, everything is lit and all of that type of thing. And just and being yourself. I think that's what I enjoy most, because a lot of children look at you like, like you can't talk to this teacher, that teacher will think something if I say something out of ordinary. I think you need to lend a listening ear. You need to show compassion. You need to show love, because children are with us for a long time, a lot of hours in the day, and sometimes we are their second parent. Sometimes we're their only parent, if you want to know the truth about it.
Yeah.
So, and you know, it's you just can't leave them at 3:00. Like if we go into the community, we go into their homes, we find out about their home life. You know, you have to invest in your children. You have to invest. Your teaching is just not about paperwork and marking papers and standing in front of the board. Because my husband used to think that a long time ago, that all I did was stand in front of the board and teach. But he knows different. After 44 years of marriage, he knows different. So, you know, even in the evenings, we're doing marking papers. We're staying late after work. Weekends we're there. And Jessie will know because her aunt and I are very good friends. Yeah. In fact, we work together. So we're there on weekends, long hours in the night. Sometimes I go to bed at 1 a.m. and my alarm goes off at 5. So, yeah.
Has your career ever come to the point where you just want to give up, but you have chosen to go on? And if so, why?
Well, to tell you the truth, I have retired. I retired in 2017. I needed a break. I needed a mental break. After teaching 44 plus years, I just said enough is enough. Not that I wanted to give up on my students or my children, but I just needed that mental break. And I must say those 3 years that I've was out of school, it brought me closer to my mom, and she had some medical issues, so I spent a lot of time with her. And during that time, my husband also had a health setback, so I got to spend time with them. But like the old song says, you see where I am, I'm back where I belong, but I'm not the same old person that I used to be. So here I am, back in 2020, I started back teaching again. So.
And when you first retired, did you ever think that you would ever come back to it?
Honestly, no. I packed up everything that I owned.
So then why did you?
Yeah, I was going to ask that.
Because, like I said, teaching is my calling. It's not a job. You know, it's not. You're not going to get rich off of it. So it's my calling. It's my passion. That's once you're a teacher, you're always a teacher. It never comes out of your system. It's always there. And that's really, I mean, I've been teaching since I was 19. My students were 18 when I first started teaching.
Wow.
And that's one of the reasons why I didn't go into high school. I went to elementary because those children gave me a run for my money.
High schoolers, I think, are some of the hardest set to be around because all the different personalities and the attitudes is just...
They're going through a change of life, Deidre.
Puberty and the hormones.
Oh, yeah. Tell me about it.
How did you find online learning?
Interesting. Very, very, very interesting. Maybe I should just leave it at that. But with the pandemic and all of that, it became very difficult. You work harder. The demands increased. You know, you have more paperwork. We had more testing, and I don't mean testing, academic testing, but, you know, the lateral flow testing. You know, you have an additional, stress. You have to be more cautious. You can't hug the children anymore. You have to worry about your health. You have to worry about their health. You have to worry about the colleagues' health. And it's just a lot of added stress. And then to tell you the truth, teaching with a mask is stressful and cumbersome. I hate it, honestly. But I know we have to do it. It's a precaution that we have to take. So,
yes,
but it's interesting.
Do you have...
I was just going to say, I like how she explains that.
Do you have any advice for people who want to become teachers?
Run for the hills! No. No, I'm just joking. For young teachers coming into this profession for the first time, it's not like what you studied in your university classes. It's not for the faint of heart. You have to build up a tough exterior. And don't take things too personal. You know, don't let other people break your spirit. If you have something to impart in these children, go for it, okay? Pray a lot. Be prepared for anything and for nothing at all. Keep records carefully. Take a lot of vitamins. Keep hydrated. And for female teachers, go to the bathroom. Do not wait. And I said, you just keep healthy, pray again, learn the atmosphere and the culture of your school, your environment, and your children. Then be caring and compassion, but be yourself. And for the new teachers that are coming to teach on the island, for the first time, I'll say, welcome to our island. I will tell them, learn about our culture, learn about our history, visit our districts, eat our food, okay, enjoy our people. But don't compare our children with the other children that you have taught before, because each child is unique. And after all, we have over 190 different nationalities living on this island. So we are as Caymanians, we are an acquired taste. We are unique, but we're wonderfully made.
Thank you so much for that.
You're
we
welcome.
are in our season of caring. Who or what do you care about?
Well, of course, I care about my family. I would not. I'll be amiss not to say that. But my mom has been my teacher and my mentor. She's a strong Kimmenbrocker. She has been my greatest supporter. She's 91 years old, strong. Still likes to dress up and wear her heels. She always told me to believe in myself, to love myself, to be myself, and to teach with compassion and love, to pray a lot, to have faith, and to make a change in just one person's life. She always told me to do that. And if you can do that, you have done your job well. My family, I would say my husband, who has put up with me for 45 years. Louis Verona, the McLean Verona crew, my siblings, my Lighthouse School colleagues, my former colleagues at John A. Cumber Primary, and my colleague and friend from room 276 at the Lighthouse School, Colleen Holston.
Well, thank you for that. I know we all in here had a great time having you on here today.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming.
You're welcome.
So now we'll have a quick music break.
Our second song will be I Can by Nas.
And we are back. And now in the studio, we have Kosti Asai with us. She's going to be talking about the Coast Guard. So first off, could you just give us a brief overview of what your job entails?
So my job basically is Marine Border Control. So our motto is saving lives, protecting borders. So what we try to do is to ensure that the laws of the sea are followed by all mariners, as well as to ensure that laws of the land are followed by all mariners in and around the shoreline, and also to prevent any illegal stuff from coming into our shores.
I love the quotation.
So what are some of the laws, if you can, I'm sure you know some of them, right?
Off the top of your head.
So that, people are aware of the laws and don't do the illegal activities.
Okay, so for example, some laws to follow when operating a vessel is to know, like, once you're in a channel, you're supposed to, it's a no-wake zone, so you have to go less than 5 miles per hour. That's one of the laws. Also, having the correct equipment on board, like almost like how you're supposed to have insurance for your car. Mm-hmm. You don't necessarily have insurance for a vessel, but you have to have, for example, your life jackets, your first aid kit, your fire extinguisher, your bilge pump. There's so much things that in order to properly operate a vessel without getting pulled up by me or any of my Coast Guard friends.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And what made you decide to join the Coast Guard?
I actually lost family about 5-6 years ago, and it really affected me. I lost them at sea, and back then it was the Joint Marine Unit. They did search for them and they never found them, so I made it my mission to try to find them, as unrealistic that might be, but to also help persons who are in my position to reconnect with their loved ones. Mm-hmm. So I'm in it for the STAR operations, the search and rescues.
Oh, okay. Was there ever a point where you just felt like quitting or choosing another career?
Most definitely. Like, boot camp is not easy. Like, it's really, really hard. There were days that the people tried me. Lies. There's a lot of, like any other job, it's going to be difficult. But the thing is, why I persevered is because I remembered my purpose. I wanted to make my dad proud and my mother proud and all of my family proud. But secondly, nobody gonna keep me down because of what you said. I like proving people wrong, and that's exactly what I did.
Mm-hmm. I love that.
Speaking of boot camp, what was the training to become a Coast Guard like?
The training to become a Coast Guard was basically 10 weeks. 10 weeks of intense training from 4:45 in the morning, basically 4:30, till the way to whenever they told you could go home. Mm-hmm. So there was a lot of physical stuff. So you had to run up and down, you had to pick up logs. I actually got in trouble a lot, so I was punished.
I was gonna ask. I was like, yeah, tell us about your wooden friend. That
Janice.
Her story.
I can't tell the story today, but I was actually given, I didn't have a car at the time, nor did I have my license. So they really dragged that because I was a 21-year-old without a car, so it was sort of or a license. So my training officer was like, Rocket keeps getting in trouble. Mind you, I wasn't doing anything, but he said, you know what, since you can't stop getting in trouble, here, I'm gonna give you our car. So he gives me this piece of plank and it was a punishment, and I was like, I have to if I'm going to the bathroom, I have to take it. If I'm going outside, I have to take it. Like anywhere I go, I have to take it. And I was like, you know what? I'm just going to make it into a handbag. I tied a little piece of rope that I did my little marksmanship with, and I just hold it, and I named her Janice. And all the way to the graduation day, I wanted to take her on the stage with me, and they said no. And then Janice actually soon inspired me to buy my actual real car, Janice. And she was always going to be a part of my career going forward because it's a very humbling experience, that whole recruitment thing.
I feel like they really helped you out there, and they just didn't know.
Yeah, man, they know I'm a mad person.
How long have you been a part of the Coast Guard?
The Coast Guard has only been existing for about a year or so I've been in there for about a year.
Oh, wow. It feels like it's been there for like so much longer.
Because it's coming from the Joint Marine Unit, but the Coast Guard is amazing.
Are there any requirements, like specific requirements to become a Coast Guard?
Okay, so to become a Coast Guard, you have to be between the ages of 18 and 35, as well as to have at least 5 GCSE passes with grades 1 to, or 3 to 1 rather, A, B, or C. And then you also have to pass your drug test, the physical test, and the written test.
And what piece of advice would you give to someone who's interested in joining the Coast Guard?
be about it or don't do it. Period. You can't just don't do it. Just say, "Oh, my Coast Guard." You have to really have passion and love and drive for it. You can't. There's no off days. You're always on call. So if you're not passionate, do not sign up. That's all.
You said the motto earlier when you started. What does it mean to you?
Saving lives, protecting borders. That means no matter what it is, if somebody's out there and it's a hurricane, I'm going to be out there to help you. I'm putting my life on the line. I'm putting myself in a perilous situation to make sure that you're all right. I'm here to guard your life, right? People are depending on me to do this. So all of us as Coasties have that responsibility. So that's what it means to me, taking responsibility for the lives of others when they are at risk.
I feel like I could see you out there in the water with a cape on right now.
Dun, 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 dun.
Superhero Erica.
Thank you so much for becoming a Coastie, you know, keeping the borders safe.
Yes.
345, you know. We're in our season of caring. Who or what do you care about?
I definitely care about my family, namely my nana, my mommy, my sister. I care about my family at work. Big up CO, XO, PO, especially PO Hunter. I love you so much, Daddy. I love you. And all of my friends that are tuned in right now. I care about each and every single person listening. And thank you for being here and chatting with us.
Thank you for coming on the show again, Erica, as you always do. You never fail for us, you know?
Thanks for having me.
Thank you for joining us on YOUTHFLEX. I'm your host, Deidre, along with my co-host, Jessie. Shout out to our guests, Miss Verona, Miss Hansen, and Miss Patterson. And Erica side.
You can't forget about me.
I know. I was like, her name was there first. What's happening? Shout out to Radio Cayman for their work on sound and boards. Mr. Will Sinatra, DJ Lynn, and DJ Silver Fox. Shout out to Conrad for the live YouTube feed.
Also, special shout out to our YOUTHFLEX crew, Jared Miles on YOUTHFLEX Socials and Community Service. Our musical director, Soraya Ramjeet, who is also on the YOUTHFLEX news desk, Mikhail McLaughlin, our promo director, and the 100-plus Flex family all over the globe. Thanks to SIFA, Cayman Insurance Center, UE Open Campus, and Mosquito Solutions for sponsoring the Super Jam, and to you, our listeners, for tuning in every Wednesday from 4 to 5 for YOUTHFLEX on 89.9 FM. Join us again next week, Wednesday, for YOUTHFLEX's Season of Caring. Until next week, this is your host, DJ Edwards, reminding you that Jesus loves you.